Hello, everyone. I am Bhakti Kothari from Indian Masterminds, and today we have with us a truly multifaceted personality, former IRS officer Giselle Mehta. She's not just a former civil servant, but also a best selling novelist, concert pianist, public speaker, and a passionate vegan advocate. From her days in the Indian Revenue Service to her creative journey as the author of Blossom Showers and Vectors in the Void, Giselle Ma'am's life beautifully blends intellect, compassion, and art. Join me as we explore her incredible journey from governance to creativity, from discipline to imagination, and discover what truly drives her inspiring story. So, ma'am, you have been an IRS officer, a novelist, a composer, a speaker, and even a vegan activist. If you had to describe yourself in one word, what would it be?
Role juggler.
Oh, nice. Right, absolutely. So many roles, you play and back to back इतनी सारी चीजें आप करती हैं, इतनी सारी चीजों में आप involved हैं, तो of course role juggler I think would be a good word to describe yourself. Now, आप एक IRS officer थे, you were an IRS officer before, फिर आपने अभी IRS leave कर दिया है, you are full time into writing, which is your passion. So what was the turning point when you decided to move from the government service to creative self-exploration?
Well, it wasn't like something systemic or heroic. It was more for personal reasons.
Hmm.
Between the time I joined service and maybe about 10 years later, there was a certain amount of churn in my family life,
Okay.
bereavement, etc. So I had some responsibilities towards my ailing elders and also some asset management to look after. So that was the main stimulus for me leaving.
Hmm. Right.
Once I left, I had to perform these duties as also explore myself in ways that would be meaningful after having left government service.
Hmm. राइट मैम एंड जैसे कि अभी हमने बात की कि इतने सारे रोल्स आपने प्ले किए हैं तो राइट आफ्टर यू हैड टू लीव आईआरएस बिकॉज ऑफ योर फैमिली सिचुएशंस व्हाट वाज द फर्स्ट रोल दैट यू पिक्ड अप?
My first role was actually entrepreneurship and business because my husband had also left with me.
ओके.
So we got into the more practical side of self exploration,
हम्म.
which was to get into various business ventures,
हम्म.
financial markets,
हम्म.
construction, sustainable energy like wind power, etc. So
राइट.
that's the bread and butter of my life, so to
राइट.
speak.
Right, right, right. And IRS, then entrepreneurship, and finally a writer. So, do you remember the exact moment जब आपने सोचा that yes, I want to write my first novel?
Well, that goes back to my school days, specifically grade 10, where my English teacher, a very lovely person called Mrs. Joyce Gonsalves,
Hmm.
pronounced me a born writer. And,
Okay.
when one thinks of writing books, it used to be novels only rather than anything else. So that's when I felt that, yes, I have it in me to be a novelist.
Hmm.
But the way things were as one went on to college and then to masters in the university, other areas of focus come in, competing activities. So this was kind of pushed to the periphery. Then I had to prep for the UPSC exam, then learn the ropes of a very challenging job,
Hmm.
start a family. So all this went to the back seat.
Hmm.
But somewhere around the late 90s, there was this huge wave of Indian writing in English.
Right, right.
Now, my mother was also a novelist back
Hmm.
in the 1960s, and though she lived in Bombay, she faithfully recreated scenarios that you would find in classic English novelists like the Bronte sisters. But I didn't think that was very doable for me.
Hmm.
But with the wave of Indian writing, the whole thing was about lived experiences, authentic settings,
Hmm.
focus on subcultures.
Hmm.
So that encouraged me to pick up my pen and let my imagination flow.
Hmm.
Along with going deeper into backgrounds that I was aware of.
Hmm. Right, right, right. Absolutely. And let's talk about your first novel now. The Passion Has Brewed. How did your first novel came into being? कैसे आपने उसका थॉट दिया? उसके बारे में अगर आप हमें कुछ बता सकें तो।
Again, this goes back to my college days when I read Gone with the Wind, and that was a novel which really stayed with me. And that was set in a cotton plantation in
Hmm.
America's deep south in the
Hmm.
19th century. So it got me thinking that, yes, I also live in a place which is surrounded by plantation culture. I'm speaking of the coffee estates of Karnataka, with which I have at least a community connection.
Hmm.
So this was something that I felt was definitely worth exploring as a backdrop.
Hmm.
Then I was also a fan of the novels of Somerset Maugham for the emotional intensity he brought to his books. And I always told myself that if I write a book, it should have the kind of emotional depth that you find in Mom's books. So that's
Hmm.
also something that came into this novel because it's heavily character based.
Right.
The third thing that I was into Greek drama through my involvement with theater.
Hmm.
And I liked how issues would, pan out beyond even the lifetime of an individual
Hmm.
to generations, which also converges with what I think is India's contribution to the world of philosophy, karmic consequences, where something
Absolutely.
can revisit you down generations. So this was the basis for the epic or saga I wrote, which crossed three generations
Hmm.
in Coffee Cup in Karnataka.
Right, right, right. And your second book, which is called Vectors in the Void, I believe. So that book
Yes.
beautifully blends world history with India's partition. How did this unusual combination come to you?
Well, if you really delve into history, this is not as incredible a scenario as it appears
Hmm.
because there were many European refugees from Hitler's Nazi situation in Europe who
Hmm.
did find their way to undivided, unpartitioned India. So it was there that I set my ill fated romance. Between two individuals from different geographies but
Hmm.
united by history.
Hmm.
And I think the book is even more than history.
Hmm.
It is like there are multiple stories in it of each of the major characters.
Hmm.
And at the heart of it is a strong woman protagonist
Hmm.
whose it commences not just with an unusual birth, but even difficult circumstances of conception.
Hmm.
And in parallel with, the conflict and turbulence of the world outside, there are the dramas of family life, which happen to be dysfunctional.
Right.
And in fact, I have poured in a lot of my own different passions and immersions, be it history, heritage, food, fashion, music, politics, activism, etc., etc.
Hmm.
So I think I put in a lot of stuff which I think would be interesting to a reader.
Absolutely. I'm pretty sure a lot of research must have gone through behind both the books. So I also
Absolutely.
wanted to ask you, between Blossom Showers and Vectors in the Void, which book challenged you more as a writer and why?
Uh, when I finished with Blossom Showers and went on to Vectors, it felt like, I can't better Blossom, better the new one in terms of technique, setting, etc. But as I delved into the writing,
Hmm.
Vectors acquired a momentum and intensity of its own. It was structurally more complex, geographically more spread out, and I also had to innovate on technique.
Hmm.
And a reviewer once commented that I cast a vast net, which is indeed so. If you read the blurb, it speaks of unifying different events and elements, races and places, etc.
Hmm. Hmm.
But what really stands out is that, like its predecessor, this is a novel that is meant to expand the mind and at the same time touch your heart, to tell you a lot
Absolutely.
of what is interesting and also to emotionally engage you.
Hmm.
which I feel is a hallmark of my writing, my fiction.
Right, right, right. And also, you have also been in the professional world, not just as an IRS officer, but also as an entrepreneur. Do you ever borrow traits from real people that you encounter in your professional life for your fictional characters?
There could be broad prototypes,
Hmm,
but there can never be 100% correspondence with any living character because no writer really wants to tread on anyone else's toes or to appropriate other people's lives.
right.
But the thing is, when you are tapping into what you may call the collective conscience or consciousness of humanity,
Hmm,
there is always the possibility of convergence.
hmm,
And I'll give you an example of that. I had a book signing event in a particular city, and a lady I had never met before who read the blurb of the book and then bought it. She said to me that, you could be writing about my mother because she was someone who lived in Karachi during the partition. She lost members of her family. She placed her children in different homes, which
hmm,
wasn't exactly the trajectory of my protagonist.
hmm,
But at the same time, the sheer factor of geographical coincidence was such that someone could relate to it with a certain sense of familiarity.
hmm,
But I will tell you that a particular character is usually a composite of many, maybe multiple people, and the majority is finally what comes out of the author's imagination. So it's very
absolutely.
important to read works as a whole and to see characters also in their entirety rather than just a particular aspect or particular element of personality.
Absolutely, ma'am. I agree with you. And, like, of course, I was just talking about professional traits. Now, coming to your time in the IRS service, you spent almost a decade in the IRS. So, what's that one thing from your civil service years that still shapes your worldview in a way?
Well, when you're in service, these are buzzwords that you keep hearing, like progress and
Hmm,
growth. And, that's something you apply normally to targets or to
hmm,
programs. But at some level, it also seeps into you that, you must make your own personal progress. You must do new things or you must do the existing things better. So it's a kind of personal evolution that is the kind of takeaway from being in a job that demands a lot of versatility.
hmm,
And secondly, I also find an interesting connect between authority, which you exercise in service,
hmm,
and the word author,
hmm,
which kind of denotes for me
hmm,
personal strength and self confidence
hmm,
in getting across in whatever you do,
hmm,
whether you're armed with the statutes of law or you're on your own.
hmm,
I think it is confidence of getting across
hmm,
with your
hmm.
personal self belief.
Right, right, right. That's true. And did your time in government ever sneak its way into your fiction? Maybe some lesson that you learned, maybe some situation that you faced somehow. Was it ever inspired by any real life situation that you were stuck in during your time in the
Uh,
government service?
My books aren't specifically about service.
Hmm,
They're rather different settings.
hmm,
But in Blossom Showers, there is a situation where someone has to kind of deal with the dilemma of an aspiration for life in the civil services as a diplomat
hmm,
and the obligations of being an heir to a family fortune.
hmm,
In Vectors in the Void, my protagonist has a very intimate relationship with
hmm,
a senior officer posted in her town. And at some point, even one of her children makes a decision to be in the civil service and succeeds and stays there for a while before evolving into something else. So,
Hmm.
yes, there are some references to service, but they're not necessarily core to the novels, to the
Okay, that
concerned books that I've
yes, that's
written.
understandable actually. But what was harder, you cracking the UPSC or completing your first novel?
I would say definitely in terms of the time involved, at least it was the novel because it took like 7 or 8 years compared to
Wow.
just the year prep that I gave the UPSC.
Hmm.
And, with something like the UPSC,
Hmm.
as long as you have the grasp of the material involved, of course, it's very vast, it's diverse.
Hmm.
But once you get a grip on it, it's a
Hmm.
matter of reproducing it as analytically and appropriately as possible. If I can give you a parallel, it's like going forward with Google Maps
Hmm.
to a particular destination.
Hmm.
So it could be your academic background that helps you, or there's such a lot of study material, books,
Hmm.
etc., that you can fall back upon.
Hmm.
But as an author, between one paragraph and the next,
Hmm.
between one chapter and the next,
Hmm.
you're completely on your own in uncharted territory with no navigational guidance. So
Absolutely.
that's
So that ultimately makes writing your first novel more difficult than even cracking the hardest examination of
well,
India.
exercise
Right.
of imagination, way that is new
Hmm.
and groundbreaking is always more difficult than what is set like a syllabus for
Hmm.
generation.
Right, 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 right. You have something to follow there, but absolutely nothing to follow here. This is your own
But
creativity, your own
uh,
imagination. Right, ma'am. And then moving forward, you are also known globally for your advocacy of veganism. So, what triggered that transformation?
very strangely, this goes back to Blossom Showers because I had a book launch function in the city of Hyderabad where
Hmm.
my chief guests were the actor couple Nagarjuna and Amala. And Amala is especially known for her activism for animals.
Hmm.
So at the end of this event, a few days later, when I was going through some coverage of the event.
Hmm.
And things are online.
Hmm.
You Google for something and something related pops up. So
Hmm.
what popped up was a 21-day vegan challenge by
Hmm.
PETA, which was being endorsed by Amala. So anyway, I kind of opted for it and I went
Hmm.
forward. And that coincided with the time in my life where there was a certain problem that I was dealing with. And that problem felt unfair to me because I felt I and my family live ethically. We are sensitive to our fellow humans as well as even non humans. So, why should this be happening to us? And that was the time that 21-day vegan challenge came to me. And it set me thinking that, well, some of the more unfair things that we do could be in our consumption choices where we delegate the difficult work of inflicting pain uh, on others while we just kind of stay steadfast in our lifestyles. So that was an eye opener, and I went for that challenge with full-hearted enthusiasm. And I have to say that even the problem that I had in mind, it kind of cleared up.
Hmm.
And with it, I also experienced better health, also awareness of how veganism and a better environment intersect. And there was no looking back after that.
Hmm, that's great. And do you know like people have a lot of myths and misconceptions about being vegan, as they say. So what is the most common misconception people have about veganism that you would like to clear away?
Well, people tend to think that being vegan means you have to lose out on a lot of the things that you value in terms of your diet and lifestyle.
Hmm.
But I'd like to tell you that today, at least, you have alternatives for everything. You have alternate milks, you have alternate meats. When I started out, everything had to be do it yourself, whether it was making plant-based milks, yogurts, cheese, cakes, sweets, etc. But
Hmm.
today it's a much more simplified situation where you have products across the board and you're actually stuck for choice often between deciding between one brand and the next. And even beyond food, in terms of other commodities, for instance, if you are uncomfortable using leather. Today, you have some fantastic, sustainable, and compassionate substances coming out, like leather made from pineapple or banana or coconut,
Right.
or of silk. You can use silk made of jute or again banana. So
Hmm.
it's a very exciting world. All that it needs is for people to be adventurous, to open their minds, and also reserve the access those reserves of empathy, which I'm sure are within every individual.
Hmm. Right, ma'am. And not just being vegan, you've also supported animal welfare across continents. I think from elephants in Africa to the street dogs in India. Is there one rescue story that actually stayed with you?
This is a difficult question because I've done so many rescues, whether directly or indirectly. I support feeders and rescuers all over the country and occasionally across the world, as you pointed out.
Hmm.
And I've even instituted wards in the animal shelter in my city. And
Hmm.
over the years, probably thousands of animals and birds have got relief and rehabilitation here. But if
Hmm.
I have to, I think, go really center on something memorable, perhaps because it was a different species. It was about a wounded donkey back in the year 2016. I had just dropped off my daughter to the first day of her school leaving exam, and I was kind of exiting so that I could make a quick dash for lunch to someone's place and then get back and pick her up. And just there at the corner was a wounded donkey,
Hmm.
and the way international schools are, this was in a far off location outside Bangalore city. And it was not the kind of place where you could ordinarily find a fellow rescuer or an organization for something as specialized as an equine. So
Hmm.
it took me a lot of time, but finally the coordination worked out, the help came. And the time was just right for me to pick up my daughter after her exam. I had to skip the lunch,
Hmm.
which didn't matter because the host was, in fact, also an animal lover who was fostering some of my other animals. So,
Hmm.
well, everything fell in place and worked out for all
Right.
of us, both the animal and the humans. Yeah.
Right. So, like, how exactly did you rescue the donkey? If you could tell us the story behind it.
Well, it was wounded, so I coordinated with someone from an animal welfare organization which was into equines. So they came, they picked it up, and they took it for treatment.
Okay. Okay, right. So, like, right now, under you, like, do you have a count of how many animals or birds have been under your protection? Any idea?
None at all. I think the number would run into thousands because I support a lot of feeders and rescuers all over. So I really don't know.
Hmm.
But also, there's another aspect that when you're vegan,
Hmm.
you save a lot of lives simply by not opting for certain consumption choices.
Absolutely.
So that's a very huge number which I cannot identify. And there is my
Absolutely.
activity where a lot of people opt for the same compassionate way of being. So there again, there is an indirect influence. So I really, really have no idea of the number.
That's really sweet. Even I have this one retirement plan from I don't know how long back now that I really want to open like an animal shelter when I
Oh,
retire. And I
fantastic.
will work towards this cause. Yeah, I do have a thing for
Um,
animals. And yeah,
I
moving
wish
on.
you all the best for that. I think that is something really needed.
Yes, I do want to do that. Like, I also contribute to a lot of pages, to a lot of animal activists and rescuers. But I do have this retirement plan that once I become of a certain age, I do want to open an animal shelter where I would like to,
Okay.
you know, foster these animals.
Anyway,
Yeah. So
that's really fantastic. And from the bottom of my heart, I really wish you all the best.
thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. And yeah, moving on. So, as someone who holds an ATCL in speech and drama, how has it influenced your creative life?
Well, drama per se is quite exciting when you're on stage. And it gives you a strong sense of pacing, even if you're writing fiction, that you never let things get prolonged, because in drama, you have to hold the audience for that many number of hours and no more.
Hmm.
So I think a sense of moving the plot
Hmm.
is something that derives from one's experience in drama. And secondly, the other thing is characters.
Hmm.
It is said that my characters are almost you know, they feel impossibly lifelike. They're very real. And that's because when, again, you act, you get into the skin of people,
Hmm.
and that kind of flows over even into other forms of writing that one is doing.
Hmm.
And I also had a great time doing children's productions, where I
Hmm.
would say adapt the novels of Charles Dickens for huge casts of children, crossing about 100. I would compose the songs and music for that. And it was really, really quite an exciting and overwhelming
Hmm.
experience, to be very satisfying.
Hmm. That's true. That's true, ma'am. And how did you get this ATCL, if you could let us know?
Well, I applied for the exam from Trinity College, London, and there's usually an examiner who comes to India. And I was completely self-taught in this. I mean, I didn't have even a mentor to go to, but this was something I did not even as a student or young person. I did this somewhere in midlife, and I just kind of relied on my knowledge of literature to
Hmm.
do this.
Hmm.
I specialized in the roles of Shakespeare
Hmm.
and also those of Greek drama.
Hmm.
So both of them were challenging, but something that I truly related to and were very educational in how they developed me as a person.
Hmm. Right. That's amazing. And you're so creative. You write, you compose, you design, you dance, you cook, you do so much. So, what does a day in your creative life really look like?
Well, there's nothing like a typical day when you're a creative person. And I also have other obligations being an entrepreneur, which are very complex and constant. But towards that part which is creative, I would say I keep navigating between different things. Sometimes I just sit in a particular chair,
Hmm.
and one of my two cats invariably jumps on my lap. And once that happens, I'm pretty much grounded. But in a sense, that is where I draft and craft things, from books to bakes,
Hmm.
So the tons of things that I do. It could be a tune that really wants to come out. There could be a chapter of a novel that I want to rework upon, some research that I'd like to do.
Hmm.
Uh, then it could be an idea for apparel, like, how to give some handloom fabric contemporary feel, how to restore and or repurpose an antique. So
Hmm.
my mind works in different directions. As I said, role juggler, shapeshifter. So I keep doing things. And of course, my vegan life is very much part of it. It's always about devising new dishes, new desserts, and things.
Hmm.
So that's there. But what is constant is that cup of coffee that I have in the morning, which is something I've personally concocted.
Hmm.
It's a mixture of home ground cashew and coconut milk,
Oh.
followed by making my morning smoothie, which is a combination of different fruits and veggies. And it's a beautiful Zen like moment, which energizes me for the rest of the day.
Hmm.
And after that, as I said, it's juggling between these different things. Could also be my altruistic life, my advocacies. It could be like a speaking engagement somewhere,
Hmm.
uh, time off that I take for travel. But I usually end my day with some salsa for fitness,
Hmm.
and I do a Bharatnatyam class once a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that about sums it up.
That's amazing, ma'am. That's amazing. And I had a lovely time speaking with you. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I wish you the best of luck and we'll keep in touch.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bhakti. It was really wonderful to share the trajectory of my life and also my thought processes to whatever extent you found them to be
Hmm.
useful to your
Thank you so
program.
much, ma'am. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much
very
for
much.
joining.
All the best to you in your endeavors, especially to start the shelter.
Thank you so much. I really, really want to do it after my retirement. I'm pretty sure I will work towards this because this has been in my mind ever since I think I was 13 or 14 years old. So this is like a
Mhm.
lifelong dream that you can say.
Okay. So,
Yeah,
anyway, the best to both of us then, and I hope our paths converge again sometime.
absolutely, ma'am. Absolutely. I would love to keep in touch with you. Thank you so much. I am Bhakti Kothari from Indian Masterminds. Thank you for watching and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories of India's change makers.